Hey guys, Level Cap here. Today we're going to do a bit of a Battlefield news catch-up, and the most recent news that was announced yesterday is all the maps in Battlefield 1 have been officially revealed, as well as all of the game modes. And after we go through all of that, I'll finish up by talking about some of the conquest and game mode changes that are being made since the beta feedback. Now the first map I want to read off the description for here is Fow Fortress. Join one of the earliest amphibious landings of the Great War as the British Empire struggles to secure the oil on the Alpha Peninsula. The majestic Ottoman fortress of Fow guards the entrance and is not falling uncontested. Here you will fight through the marshlands and dunes, over bridges and shallow coves. The assault finally enters the ancient fortress itself. The quest for oil begins here. The Dreadnought needs to feed. And based on this description, I think we can assume that the Dreadnought will be the behemoth for this map. And I gotta say, it looks very cool. Assaulting this ancient fortress with semi-modern weaponry is just sort of this like battle out of time. The next map is Suez, a struggle for the most vital supply line of World War I. Even though it was considered impossible, the Ottomans crossed the desert of the Sinai and threatened the canal. Join the fight by the banks of the Grand Canal and make tactical use of the dunes. Fight through the shallow defenses with field guns or mortars, through the outskirts of Katara and into the deep desert beyond. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Dreadnought was the behemoth for this map as well. If you want to know a little bit more about the history of this, you can always watch the great film Lawrence of Arabia. Next up, we have Ballroom Blitz. Join the final offensives along the Meuse River in 1918. Here, fierce fighting in the trench lines is quickly replaced by the untouched beauty beyond hell. A massive French chateau, previously home to the officers beyond the rear lines, is now the scenes for a battle with both tanks and flamethrowers. The chandeliers are shaking from the barrage as the American forces push for the final railway hub at the edge of this map. I'm certainly looking forward to playing this map simply for the beauty and the potential destruction of the chateau itself. Also, we might be seeing the train behemoth again, considering that a railway hub is one of the objectives. Next, we have one of my most anticipated maps, which is the Argonne Forest. The shadowy depths of the Argonne Forest is the scene of some of the most brutal close-quarter combat in Battlefield 1. The world inside the forest features devious defensive setups combined with a labyrinth of bunkers and machine gun nests, camouflage field guns firing at point-blank range, stormtroopers clearing out bunkers with gas, and the best use of sharpened spades will determine who owns the depths of this forest. Heroes are forged surviving the intensity of this infantry-focused map. Given the new technology of the Frostbite engine, I just can't wait to take the battle into the forest. And the fact that this is an infantry-focused map leads me to think that if there is a behemoth here, we'll probably end up seeing the armored train again, since there is a train in one of the screenshots. And for those of you who may have missed some of the other Battlefield map announcements, this one is Amiens, which is a French city that's close quarter building fighting, and also looks like it's going to have the train behemoth. And then of course there's Monte Grappa, which was shown in a bunch of trailers and stuff. I think we know that the airship is going to be in this map. It's a very vertical looking map with the Venetian Alps, and the Italians are assaulting this mountain fortress, and clearly there's going to be some airplanes in it as well. Looks very cool, very outdoorsy. And then of course we have Empire's Edge, described as an Italian coastal map. We already see the Dreadnought in this one. We see airplanes. It looks like it's going to have a cool mixture of naval and potentially infantry and even aerial combat all in one map. Then of course we have the Alpha and Beta map, leaving us with a total of 9 maps at launch, but also another free map in December. The map's name is Giant's Shadow. Its description reads, "Prepare to take part in the Battle of the Selle in the cold autumn of 1918. Here, the fighting moves out of the trenches and into the open country, where a massive crashed airship casts its shadow onto the battlefield. The British forces have broken through the Hindenburg Line and are now in pursuit towards an important railway center. Fierce infantry and tank engagements ensue on the open ground and river banks alongside the Cateau-Waisengy Railway, where an armored train can still turn the tide. Giant Shadow will be coming for Battlefield 1 as part of a free update in December." Other than the description, we really don't know much else. I'm hoping to see a little bit of snow though, considering it takes place during the winter. Now beyond the maps that are shipping with the game, DICE has also outlined the game modes. We have Conquest, Domination, Operations, Rush, Team Deathmatch, and then War Pigeons. Now I did mention some of these game modes in sort of the leaked files video a little while back. but we do have a bit more information on War Pigeons. In the War Pigeons game mode, the opposing sides compete to use messenger pigeons to call in artillery barrages on the enemy. When the game starts, a pigeon coop with a messenger pigeon is placed somewhere on the map. Locate the pigeon before the enemy and carry it to a safe location out in the open. There you prepare a message and send it off, calling for artillery support. Once a message is successfully sent, an artillery barrage will strike the enemy. And based on some of the previous data mining, I believe this is going to be a smaller game mode, probably infantry focused. Now the data mining also brought up a game mode called Air Superiority, which is in previous Battlefield games, and it wasn't announced as one of the game modes that's going to ship with the game at launch. Either that means the game mode isn't finished yet, or they're saving it for an expansion. Now, for those of you who might have missed it, on the 19th, DICE posted a pretty good write-up talking about the feedback that they received from the community and some of the bigger changes that they're going to make to the game based on the beta feedback. And this is really cool, and it's just nice to have a dialogue basically with DICE. We played the beta, we all spoke and argued about different balance mechanics, what we liked, what we didn't like, and DICE took in all this information, judged it, decided what to do, and have made changes accordingly. And of course, one of the biggest issues that was discussed was the Conquest game mode, and this is what DICE had to say. When we build a new Battlefield game, it's important for us to try new things. We want to stay fresh and renew the franchise with each new installment. However, it's equally as important that we take the feedback that you, the community, are giving us. This is why we're going to be making changes to the Conquest game mode ticket system for launch. The next time you play the game, capturing an objective and getting kills will both contribute towards the score of a Conquest match. You have spoken, we have listened. Now this is important because they don't mention returning to the classic Conquest system. They don't mention anything about being able to stop ticket bleed if you control more flags than the enemy team. And that's a pretty important thing that they left out, because it means that they're not actually changing Conquest back to the classic system. They're just making it so that kills count towards the scoreboard so they don't feel as trivial in the new game mode. But it seems to be more of a hybrid between the new mode and the old mode. And we'll really just have to wait and see until launch how well this new mode plays out. One of the other complaints and one of my concerns is that they're not going to have enough comeback potential in Conquest, whereas old Conquest basically allowed you to make a comeback by stopping the ticket bleed, by owning more flags than the enemy team, whereas the new mode basically never stops that. So you have to like completely dominate the enemy team in order to have a meaningful comeback. Now DICE also made this statement about Rush. We have also been monitoring and listening to your comments in regards to the Rush game mode. It's super exciting for us to bring back Rush for Battlefield 1, and we are aiming to make it the best Rush experience to date. We are making tweaks to the game mode as we speak, with your feedback as the backbone for the entire process. Now, this is definitely a fairly vague response, and that might be in part due to the fact that Rush is a somewhat complex game mode in terms of balancing. Each MCOM could require different things in order to make it play out properly, so specifics might not actually give us as much information as we think we're getting, but it would have been nice to hear something about the tanks or perhaps the player count of the game mode being locked in at 24. Is any of that going to be changed? We won't really know until launch. Now, towards the end of the post, they also mentioned nerfing the light tank, which was definitely one of those vehicles that I saw a lot of people just obliterating and topping the scoreboard when they got in the light tank. So I believe it's going to get an armor reduction based on some tweets. And then also they talked about getting the support class some good anti-armor gadgets. We already know that the support is getting a mortar, but I think DICE might be talking about something else here. And we saw something about an anti-vehicle mine that you might like slap on the side of a vehicle. So maybe support is getting that gadget. That would be kind of cool. Maybe that can be a fairly big game changer. It sounds like it could be a close range weapon though. We'll have to wait and see. They also mentioned getting some of the better anti-tank weapons into your hands earlier. So I imagine that might be referring to the AT rocket gun. Rather than making that an unlock requirement, they might give that to you by default at the start or make it very easy to get. And this could help put a little bit more power back in the hands of the infantry when it comes to tank versus infantry combat. Anyway, that's quite a bit of news regarding Battlefield 1. It's exciting. It's nice to hear DICE at least responding to us and telling us that they're working on stuff and balancing certain aspects of the game based on the beta feedback. And I am still very excited for the release of this game, as I'm sure many of you are as well. that pretty much wraps it up for the video. As always, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing out.